number 4, Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement made after the Pike River disaster that, quotes, "We're doing everything we can to make sure this tragedy isn't repeated," end quotes? If so, does he agree with Olivia Monk, sister of Michael Monk, who was killed at Pike River, that, quotes, "There have been 291 deaths since Pike River in New Zealand within the workplace, and that is unacceptable," end quotes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, and yes, that's unacceptable. That's why the government has conducted the most significant review of workplace health and safety in more than 2 decades. However, Mr Speaker, it should be noted that I'm advised by WorkSafe New Zealand that since Pike River, the number of fatalities has been 233. I'm further advised that in the 5 years prior to Pike River, there were 331 fatalities, so the number is trending down.
Supplementary.
The supplementary question, Andrew Little.
In light of the presence around Parliament today of some of the families of Pike River victims, is the real reason for the delay in the passage of the Health and Safety Reform Bill because of internal divisions in the National Party and difficulties with support parties?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, no, there's a genuine desire and also a need to work with our support partners to actually get the legislation correct. But, Mr Speaker, I stand by the government's record actually in health and safety, which has been to set up the Royal Commission into Pike River, to establish the High Hazards Unit, to establish the Independent Task Force into health and safety. We introduced new underground mining regulations. We set up WorkSafe as a single-focused independent health regulator. We've provided 35 million more of additional funding, and we've boosted the total number of health and safety inspectors up to 167.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Does he stand by his statement that, quotes, "There have been too many deaths on farm for there not to be changes," end quotes? And if so, will he guarantee that agriculture will be included as a high-risk industry under the Health and Safety Reform Bill?
Mr Speaker, yes, I stand by my statement. No, I wouldn't guarantee that agriculture with employees of 20 or less would be deemed high risk. What the government will do is take the best advice, and the Minister will be introducing that tomorrow.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
How many deaths have there been in the agriculture sector since 2010, and what is that as a proportion of the workforce in that industry?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I don't have that information with you. Member would need to put it down in writing, and I'm more than happy to get the Minister of Labour to give it to him.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Given that since the 29 deaths at Pike River, around 290 more New Zealanders have died at work, despite his promise of better laws, does he seriously think...
Order. I have a point of order from the Right Honourable.
Mr Speaker, obviously it's important that the House is not misled. And in Mr Speaker, and in my answer to my primary question...
That's not going to help the order of the House. I heard the answer the Prime Minister gave. The Leader of the Opposition is now quoting another figure. That's in order for the Leader to do so, but I imagine the response will be fairly robust when the question is completed. I invite Andrew Little to then complete his question.
Mr Speaker.
Next Mr Master.
Order. Given that since the 29 deaths at Pike River, around 290 more New Zealanders have died at work, despite his promise of better laws, does he seriously think he has done enough to protect Kiwis at work?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I think the member is deliberately misleading the House. The correct number is 233.
Correct. Supplementary.
Supplementary question. Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Will he come to the workplace safety meeting today at 6 o'clock in the Legislative Council chamber, and will he look the Pike River families in the eye and tell them he has done all he can to prevent other families suffering losses like theirs?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I've met with the families on many occasions. And Mr Speaker, I would simply more than happy to reaffirm to the families that this government has utterly stood behind the commitments that we've made, and I personally have utterly stood behind those commitments. They include setting up the Royal Commission into Pike River, establishing the High Hazards Unit with 17 specialist inspectors to oversee the safety of our mining and petroleum sectors. We've established an independent task force into health and safety. We've introduced new underground mining regulations. We've set up WorkSafe as the single-focused independent health and safety regulator. We've provided $35 million of additional funding for the regulator, bringing total resourcing up to $80 million per year. We've boosted the number of health and safety inspectors up to 167. We've developed the Health and Safety Charter in Christchurch to assist the Canterbury rebuild. We've introduced a safety assurance regime for adventure activity operators. We've supported the industry-led Forestry Industry Safety Council. We've worked with industry to introduce the Safer Farms Initiative to improve health and safety.
Bring the answer to a conclusion. Order. Question number 5, Joanne Hayes.